Good morning, South Africa, and welcome right here on Morning Express. And we are live on Galaxy Universal Network, and this is where we give you all the latest news and headlines. And today I get to be joined by a pioneer, a businessman, an entertainer of all sorts, and all things entertainment. But before we get into that conversation later on, let us take a look at the headlines. President Cyril Ramaphosa calls for the silencing of guns and campaigns to the end of the scourge of gender-based violence. Democratic Alliance Shadow Minister of State Security Diana Kohler accuses Minister Bheki Cele and the ANC government for not prioritizing farm killings. In other news, KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Transport Community Safety, Bheki Ntuli, says that investigations are still underway after following the fatal accident that killed 13 people yesterday. And in our sports wrap-up, Inter Milan reveals latest signing from FC Barcelona. And in studio today, I get to be joined by Mpilo Oscar, the sound guy. That's how I should always say it. You are the sound guy. How do you do?
No, we do sound. That's how simple we make it.
Yeah. Are you good? Are you happy?
I'm happy.
I feel like Heritage Day being tomorrow, it's already a Friday for a lot of people throughout the country of South Africa.
Absolutely, because the president has just announced that we must dance for their favorite song. So heritage it is, and then we must celebrate it.
Ah, beautiful. We'll get into that conversation later on as we take a look at your leading stories this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa says that it is high time South Africa and Africa silences the guns and starts campaign against these continued challenges that Africans have been facing. Ramaphosa delivered his remarks at the opening general debate at the United Nations Assembly. He also continued and said that it is time that particularly at the intercontinental level, they are working on finalizing and adopting the AU Convention on Violence Against Women during the course of this year. This comes in the wake of a report that gender-based violence and femicide cases saw a steady decline, particularly during the course of several lockdowns, as a result of measures to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus.
Peace and security in the Darfur region of Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Mali, and the Central African Republic. It is imperative that this collaboration is institutionalized and that the financing of AU peacekeeping operations is addressed and resolved. South Africa is currently serving its second year as an elected non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. We have used our tenure to promote international peace and security by advocating for the peaceful settlement of disputes and inclusive dialogue. The current composition of the Security Council does not reflect the world in which we live. On the 75th anniversary of the UN, we repeat our call for greater representation of African countries on the Security Council, and that this be taken up with urgency at the intergovernmental negotiations. It is only through a reformed and inclusive UN Security Council that we will be able to collectively resolve some of the world's most protracted conflicts. As we celebrate the founding of an organization dedicated to freedom and equality, the people of Palestine and Western Sahara continue to live under occupation. We repeat our call for an end to the illegal occupation of Western Sahara and for the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. We further call for the lifting of the economic embargo and blockade of Cuba. Your Excellencies, we have no choice but to work together to address the climate change crisis. As we rebuild in the aftermath of this pandemic, we have an opportunity to place the global economy on a low-carbon, climate-resilient developmental path. We must advance the principles of the green...
And moving on to our next story. Democratic Alliance Shadow Minister of State Security Diana Kohler says that to the ANC that the daily blinding, beating and crippling of farmers and farm workers is not a priority. In a recorded address, Kohler said that the moment the Democratic Alliance launched its 16-point plan in June aimed at forcing and focusing on razor focus on farm attacks and murders, the ANC suddenly flipped the compassion switch and made sure that they went on board to support all the farm workers and the killings. She further said that the governing party, via its premiers and various ministers, suddenly took overnight interest and began to speak out against the brutal attacks and the tortures and the general horrors of South African farm attacks only after the DA had raised the red flag.
The moment the Democratic Alliance launched its 16-point plan in June, aimed at forcing a razor focus on farm attacks and murders, the ANC began to take an interest via premiers and various ministers in the tortures and general horrors of South African farm attacks. They began to speak out against these atrocities, and we almost believed them. In Parliament, the Minister of Police said that attacks on farms and smallholdings were on the list of priority crimes. But then in typical Bheki Cele fashion, he promptly contradicted himself when speaking in KwaZulu-Natal. He said that farm attacks and murders would not be classified as priority crimes. For a while now, the ANC has pretended that rural lives matter. Now we know the truth. To the ANC, the daily blinding and beating and crippling of farmers and farm workers is not a priority. Their being slaughtered is unimportant. He didn't hesitate, for example, to declare cash-in-transit heists to be priority crimes, and that means massive resources go into preventing those heists. Apparently to him, farmers' lives, farm workers' lives, and the lives of their families are to the ANC far less important than a van full of cash. Make a difference. Sign the petition via the links attached, and I will deliver it to Parliament.
And moving on to our next story. KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Transport Community Safety, Bheki Ntuli, has decried a fatal accident that killed 13 people, including a fetus, and left 5 sustaining serious injuries outside Pietermaritzburg in the early mornings of yesterday. Rather today, MEC Ntuli, who visited the scene, also called on law enforcement agencies to launch a manhunt for the tipper truck driver, who is believed to have fled the scene after the accident. The accident happened in the intersection of R33 in Greytown Road and R614 and Wartburg Road. The accident involved 4 vehicles, a combination truck, a tipper truck, a Suzuki Bakkie, and a minibus taxi. This is alleged that the driver of the tipper truck failed to stop at the stop sign, resulting in the collision. He then fled the scene and is being sought by the police. The majority of the passengers were traveling in the minibus taxi from Empolweni to Pietermaritzburg. The deceased are 10 females, including a fetus, and 2 males. A minibus disciplinary team is expected. A multidisciplinary team of experts, and some of them now have been set to investigate the cause of this horrendous accident. Containing commencements after inspecting the accident scene, a visibility shook MEC Ntuli that described the accident as a blatant fact to law enforcement traffickers, and saying that the drivers who fled the scene must face the music. The police have once again topped the list of the corruption reports this year, according to the Analyst of Corruption Trends released on Tuesday. The report by Corruption Watch found that 55% of complaints about the police came in after declaration of lockdown in March. Corruption Watch research Melusi Ngala says this also as he speaks on how police officers are protected by the police stations where improper conduct is being reported.
Also, worthy of noting when we talk about police corruption is that, there is a dereliction of duty. What we mean by that is that the kind of cronyism that manifests in the police sector is such that police protect each other. So when a member of the public goes and complains about an officer who has been corrupt or performed or did something that's illegal, his superiors or her superiors are not necessarily willing to investigate and take the matter.
And moving into our next story, Police Minister Bheki Cele warned the public to stick to the permitted number when attending gatherings, especially at funerals. And he further said over 300,000 people have so far been arrested and charged with violating lockdown regulations. The Western Cape recorded the most arrests with 72,137, followed by Gauteng with 59,000 arrests made during the lockdown. These violations include liquor, transport and business and other cross-border related offences. The minister said 16,539 police officers have been infected with coronavirus. The virus has claimed the lives of 215 police officers. He further continued and said that gender-based violence is at a crisis level within our country.
And discuss about the blatant disregard of the health of our people by some liquor outlets owners. I'm talking about the business that choose to flout the rules in the name of profit. This past weekend, I joined the operations checking on the compliance in the Ekurhuleni in the Gauteng province. During the multidisciplinary operations between SAPS, SANDF and provincial traffic law enforcement, we came across several shebeens and taverns operating way past the stipulated 10 p.m. curfew under level 2. More disturbing was the practice of some liquor outlets squeezing patrol inside their venues with shut windows and doors. This is done to look as if the business is closed for the night. Meanwhile, drinking and socializing is in the confined space ongoing until the early hours of the morning. Establishments in other parts of the country are undertaking the illegal practice that is putting money before people's health. This is what they do. They shut all the doors, they shut all the windows, and the drinking and consumption of alcohol continues. So we want to make the point very clear. We knock to these areas, but if we are correct and our information is correct, we would not hesitate to get enforced access to those places to make sure that those people are saved. So the better way of not us having enforced access is that people must just obey the law. When you close, let the people go and don't keep the people there as your slaves to continue to do things that they are not supposed to do because you want extra money. I also know that it is not only taverns that are breaking the rules. Some restaurants and...
The minister announced 30 gender-based violence and femicide hotspots as identified by the government and reaffirmed its commitment to provide victim-friendly rooms at the police stations for victims of violence.
Virus pandemic. If we all play our parts, the country will certainly combat the coronavirus pandemic. Sadly, the same cannot be said for the second pandemic that is a crisis level in the country. Gender-based violence is a societal evil that must be contained at all costs. Following the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa's pronouncement around GBV and F still rife under lockdown, the work of the Interministerial Committee on the GBV continues. As a member of this IMC, I have addressed this topic several times, highlighting the work we are doing as the SAPS to combat this scourge. I have also spoken at length of measures we as the police are putting in place to professionalize the service rendered to the victims of GBVF. In our effort to drill down the community and district level in our response to GBVF, government has pinned down 30 GBVF hotspots. The list was compiled based on 9 key variables, including number of cases reported to the SAPS during the 2019-2020 financial year.
Well, we just brought you the first edition of the news right here on Morning Express. When allow us to take this quick commercial break, we'll be back after this with more news.
Challenge your ordinary. Experience the extraordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Now, I believe that my peace is my most valuable asset.
Absolutely beautiful! This is exactly what I was looking for. DJ Khaled!
It is a day to celebrate.
We're ready for action.
I like it when it's nice and soft.
That is nice.
How was it like growing up in Nigeria? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what it is.
Feeling is there that, you're doing something special.
Stop being so dramatic, Mira.
You should just be what you want to be.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
Welcome back from the ad break. You're still watching Morning Express right here on Galaxy Universal Network. As promised, our special feature for the day, as always. But you can continue interacting with us across every social media platforms, and it is on Twitter and Instagram, Gun_TV, on Facebook, Galaxy Universal Network. And we brought you our leading stories today, and we broke out with President Cyril Ramaphosa calling for silencing of guns and campaigns throughout our country. And we moved on with Democratic Alliance Minister Shadow speaking about the farm killings and workers within KwaZulu Natal. And also in our other news, the MEC Begin Ntuli speaking about the car accident that was fatal for where 13 people had passed away. And in our sports wrap-up later on, we bring you Inter Milan reveals a latest signing from FC Barcelona. But as promised, today I'm joined by the businessman, the entertainer, all things sound, Mr. Bilo Oscar. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
I feel like your voice is that waking up good morning voice. It's like a radio voice. You get told that a lot of times.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like a Robert Morale feel to it. It has like a radio.
Yes. Like I said, we do sound, so everything is all about sound.
Sound. It has to sound.
Yes, you have to sound better.
Yeah.
You know?
Take me through. I mean, it's all sound, and we're talking off air, and I want to get right into it. You mentioned that you take your speakers, your equipment, straight to protests.
Yes.
Take me through that.
So basically. It's business as usual. Normally we would get a call to say we've got a march, we've got a protest. So in order to make it work, so we just take the sound, load it up, and then balance it nicely, and then from there the protest goes, and that's the best vibe of all the vibes,
So in a protest, you bring music along, you bring speakers along.
We bring music along, we bring speakers, we bring the microphone, and then people begin to interact, and then it gets to be louder and better.
So do you think that within our protesting, I mean in South Africa, looking at various protests, looking at the 70% capacity that our artists in South Africa were protesting about, do you think that them having the speakers present there allowed the magnitude, their voices to be heard on a louder platform?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think it was during the last week, just a day before the president announced that the artists are now allowed to perform within the 70%, within the 50% of the venue capacity. The artist took it to the streets, and then I was the one also who was invited to come and help with that
protest and making
sure that it happens.
But how has COVID-19 affected you? It's not only artists, but you are the sound guy. Your business is all sound. It's all marketing. It's all making sure that the bass beam, when you're entering, whether at a convention center, whether you're attending an event, anything that's happening within our music space, entertainment, whether it's corporate or not corporate, we need sound. How has that affected you as a businessman?
It affected us severely because it clearly meant that there's no income, there's nothing happening. You know, when the year starts, there's not a lot of events that happens between January and February.
Okay.
So, but the events then start to kick after
March.
After March. That's when we say, okay, during the Easter, during the May, June, when the year starts to refresh itself, when the budget starts to kick in many sectors. But this one took us by the very
by storm. It took you guys by storm. You are mentioning finances. I think it's an important one because we're looking at young Black South Africans or people that are entering within the community of work, even in Africa. What can you teach them about financial literacy, knowing that during January and February there isn't much income coming in at all, but December, that's where it's happening. So how do you transition, knowing that you need to save your income for at least January, making sure that you're buying uniform, stationery for kids, if there's anything that needs to happen for February too, so that it sustains you till March when the business is continuing coming back again?
Yeah, basically, it's not about to spend a lot of money when the business kicks, because you still have to take care of the crews.
Yes.
And when you take care of the crews, it's not about to take care of them in terms of saying when there's event you get this. So it means that you can have as many events as possible, but you'll need to have that financial management skill to say, what if December, even though there are many events, but December doesn't work out. But from July and September, you might find that it's a very good season for you. It's just that it's a technical industry whereby you need to be too technical as well to say what type of the events that I'm targeting. You might find that in a certain year, you might not get as many weddings as possible, but you might get as small private parties as possible, that you'll need to make them work.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what has been the highlight of your career within the business that you are running at this point, knowing that you are the sound guy? What has been the highlights and what has been the downest moments within the business?
The very downest moment within the business, it's when the COVID-19 came about. Because I never thought that sound would ever stop to be needed.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. But it's just that it was not the space that many people operate, but some other people in the same space of the business, when the media briefings were taking place, we could see them that, okay, a certain percentage of our people in the industry are also still working, but the majority of us were shut down.
Yes.
So the COVID-19 pandemic is the one that has taught us a lesson to say, you must not put your eggs in one basket, but you better think out loud. And then the highest moment is when everything gets back to normal, that it's business as usual, and then we can now work and
get back to business.
And get back to business.
But take me through the relief fund. We heard the President Cyril Ramaphosa announcing that there's money allocated for artists, for people within the entertainment industry. Did you get a portion of it, and was it able to sustain you if you were able to get it?
In terms of the relief fund, I didn't participate on the application of it.
Okay.
Based on the technicalities and qualifying criteria that basically I did not follow it up and also check the criteria at all, because basically I did a restructuring of the company that it doesn't have even the year's criteria that are needed.
Okay.
But during the protest, there were the artists who raised it to say they were promised something of that sort, of which it was part of the memorandum of demands, and then of which I believe it's still going to work for them. Yes. But in terms of that, myself, I did not participate.
You did not participate in that.
Yes.
But looking at, we are on alert level 1. It's I think we're about to celebrate post-COVID in a couple of months if the government does allow everything to happen and we citizens to follow every restrictions, every protocol that has been put out there. So what would you say to South Africans that are going to be attending events, festivals, that are going to be going to gatherings? What is your motion as a person that's always attending events?
What I can advise South Africans is that health comes first. And we must put life first. If you can see that, okay, this is not safe, this is not, it seems like something is going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Put on your face mask, protect yourself. No one is going to protect you. That's my advice.
Man, protect yourself, wear that face mask and sanitize and keep your social distancing. But take me through Umhlonyana. There is a business that you run where it's all herbs. It's all making sure that you don't catch flu. Take me through that. And we're in COVID-19. Did that business go well?
No, it did actually. While the sound was not working, I took a drive to Free State.
Okay.
And I saw the tree. I tried it. I drove for the first time, and remember it was alert level 5.
Yeah.
I took a risk and drive there, mostly just because my brother had flu, and we couldn't determine whether is it a flu or something. But he went to the doctor. The doctor said no, it's just a flu.
Yeah.
And then from there, I took it upon myself and drove to the Free State and harvest the herb. And when I harvested the herb, I came back with it, cut it, packaged it nicely, took it to him. He drank. He got fine. And then I thought, these things work. I took it upon the social media, and people started placing the orders. And the people who were affected by the pandemic, and they tried it. And I wouldn't say it worked, but I believe it contributed in their well-being, because many people, they begin to bring back their good testimonials, and said no, it works. And then someone just sent a message and said I was bedridden, and then after using it, it worked for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So take me through, I mean, how much is Umhlonyana, the packaging, how big is it, how small is it?
The packaging, it was just something like 400 grams.
Okay.
It was the leaves and the stem, and we just package it, and then we just advise that in that 400 you can boil up to 3 liters, and then from there, if you feel it's too strong, and then you can dilute it, and you can mix with the lemon and the ginger, and then
Oh wow, thank you very much for having this conversation with me. I mean, who could have thought Umhlonyana could be something that becomes in business in 2020?
No, it went in business and it worked.
Thank you very much for joining me, Mpilo Oscar. It was a great conversation.
Thank you very much.
Well, South Africa at large, this is Morning Express right here on Galaxy Universal Network, and my name is Uhamoni Bhele. This is Heritage Monday. This is Morning Express. See you same time, same place tomorrow morning at 9:30. Have a good one.